Hello and welcome. We are really happy to be here today. And we would like to start the session with a question. And if you would answer the question with yes, just please raise your hand. And the question is, are you working in IT? I see a lot of questions. Someone is not sure. Can you maybe tell us what you are doing or what you are working in?
Yes, I'm working as a legal tech, as a consultant for Notary Public.
Okay, interesting. So we do have a lot of tech people, some people who are not quite sure if they belong there or not, and some who probably studying something completely different. But we will get back to this question later on, so thank you very much. But yeah, here we are at the CodePub stage at the ITCS. We are both consultants from NetLight, and we are big fans of CodePubs, already participated in quite some of them, and we are really happy to be here. However, when our colleague Becky first approached us to ask us if we want to hold a talk here, we kind of were hesitant about it. My perception was, am I really the right person to stand here? Am I the best role model to have a talk here? Am I like techy enough? Am I IT enough? So that were the questions we had for us.
Yeah, and I think the question would be then, who is a real person in IT? And when I first thought about it, it would be someone working in tech. A woman who is fighting her way through the very male-dominated workspace and like writing one line by code after another. And this would also be a person who would encourage women to continue to stay very techy. So when I thought, okay, who would be the core example here? So here on the picture, you can see a picture of Ruth Lichterman and Marlene Westcott. And those two are currently writing the software code or putting in the wiring for the ENIAC. And the ENIAC was the first electronical numerical general purpose computer in the 1960s. And those were the two of the first 6 software engineers back in the days. But also thinking this, I realized that I have a clear bias and a clear misconception actually also about myself, because I mean, I am in IT and Louisa is also in IT. But also got me pretty interesting and also curious, like where did this thought actually come from? Because if we have these thoughts, then we're probably not the only ones. But to first give you a little bit of a context of who you're listening to and who are we. So my name is Anna, and I have a career based in design and in product and design management. My background is an industrial design engineer, so it's kind of a mix between mechanical engineering and product development. So it's not the typical background you would see in a person working in IT. And I learned how to code in Python and HTML, CSS back in the days, but after my first job as a front-end engineer, I also realized that it was a lot less like Neo in the Matrix and a lot more being patient and debugging lines of code. And I realized that I needed a lot more human interaction. And then I think I found something that really suited me well.
Yes, and I'm Louisa. By now I'm in IT product management, but I actually studied applied computer science in my bachelor's and my master's, and started more in a classical way as a backend developer. But I actually want to tell you a little story, because a few weeks back I was at my high school reunion. After 10 years, it was a long time no see, so we played a little game. And everyone were supposed to gather in the field of where they're working at the moment. And we had different fields. We had law, we had medicine, we had economics, IT, and many more. And I immediately, as I studied IT and also working as an IT consultant, I went to the space for all IT people. But I was the only one standing there. And I mean, I am on a only girls' school, but still, I was pretty sure at least 2 other girls are also in the IT field by now. So after we had this little game, I went to them and I asked them, like, why didn't you stand there in the IT field if you're doing IT? And they were kind of hesitant as well. And they were like, yes, I am doing IT product management, but it's not really IT. I mean, I'm not coding anything. And I'm definitely have not studied any IT field. So I actually told Anna the story, and we were both like, okay, that shouldn't be like this. We are both hesitant about having the talk, even though we are in IT and even identify ourselves as this. And those girls also didn't identify themselves as IT people. So with our track record, why was this feeling lurking around that we are not real women in IT? So maybe let's deconstruct some stereotypes if we don't think we belong there. A stereotypical person working in IT, usually you already have something or someone in mind. This person usually has some traits. For example, this person has glasses, maybe a beard, doesn't really like to talk to people, is not really communicative, writes low-level code or build things in software in general, and like to automate things. Here, for example, we have a really famous example, Bill Gates, and he has a lot of those traits. We are not saying by any sense those stereotype is true by any sense, but still, if we compare each other to this, we don't really feel like we belong there and don't identify ourselves as this. And it obviously also makes it different to relate to for other people and not only us. And because these stereotypes exist and they are also widespread, I think every one of you had something in their mind when they thought about an IT guy. It also creates barriers for entry.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, a report from the World Economic Forum, they asked in a survey of 9,000 participants if they had ever experienced any type of discrimination based on gender in tech. And 57% of women said yes, they had been, compared to 10% of men who answered yes in the study. And 48% of women also experienced that they get discriminated based on their technical competence because they are women. And personal examples, a friend of mine who was studying electrical engineering back at the university, she was pushed against the wall by a guy who told her that she doesn't belong in the field because she's a woman. So it's not just our own personal bias and our own ideas of what we can do, but it actually also creates physical barriers of entry and conceptions by others. And stereotypes also makes it quite difficult to identify with IT, especially if you don't look like this guy. So we clearly lack some representations. But it wasn't always this way. So let's look back to Meredith and Ruth here and the first software developers. Back in the days, software was something that was made for women, and hardware was something that was supposed to be done by the men. Women also couldn't get promoted to senior positions or take leadership positions because of the fact that they were women. And in the 80s, software programming was also something for women because it required hard work, patience, but not anything that you were considered needed your brain for. So, like, what do we want to say with this? Like, a common denominator is that, well, women's work tends to be undervalued, or we tend to also undervalue ourselves. But it's more of a structural problem than it is an individual problem. And where women go, it also does something to the domain.
So maybe then let's talk about perception and language. Because by stating this, what we just told you, we are also seeing that there's a problem with overall equality. A lot of implicit biases that we impose towards ourselves, but also other people have towards us. And they carry also a few of misconceptions. And this trickles down not only to us, but also to the younger generation who are choosing some kind of career. And I don't know how many times I've heard that women should do design to make things nice. Or that a project manager is a great fit for a woman because they're good at organizing things. Or that because women are better at communicating, they should maybe do the softer roles or any soft roles. And in my first software engineering project back in university, I was also asked by my co-students if I maybe should just do the design and they can do the coding. And in the first moment, I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I want to bring something to the table. I think design is something I might be able to do, and I have never coded before. So I accepted it. And if they are telling me maybe I should do the design and not the coding, maybe they are right, and I'm just not good enough to do it. And mid-project, I haven't written any line of code. And I felt kind of like, yeah, but I'm supposed to study IT at the moment. Like, when am I doing this? How am I supposed to learn this? Not only by seeing some slides from my professor. So we also tend to call the roles that women have as soft. And we focus a lot of the attributing of those softer skills to female-dominated domains. Language also implies that the opposite of soft roles are usually hard roles, some tech roles, and done by more tech men. It implies that the real hard work is done by tech, and that the soft surroundings that are helping to work, like to make the IT shine, are done by women. The glue that holds it together, what women have been assigned to do for the last centuries. However, by changing the perception of ourselves, we can change the language we have towards ourselves. And if we change the language towards ourselves, other people can also change that, and then also change their perception, as they are always linking to each other.
Nice. But then, let's go soon. But then let's also expand a little bit. Okay, what is the definition of a woman in IT? And maybe we can also reflect a bit together. Because we have already stated that the stereotype seems to be quite narrow, but that the qualifications, the label, also do change over time. So we decided to ask ChatGPT, can you help us with the definition of what is a woman in IT? So this is what it told us. So women in IT work across various industries, including tech companies, financial institutions, healthcare, education, government, and more. They are involved in the design, development, implementation, support, and management of computer-based systems and software applications. So it seems like the definition is actually quite a lot broader than the stereotype. And we also see this when we look into our own network and to the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis. And we have a lot of role models for inspiration. And role models are important because what we can see, we can imagine. And what we imagine, we talk about. And what we talk about is what we perceive as important. So if we cannot imagine, see, or talk about women in IT and in IT leadership in different domains, then we will also not consider women when we recruit, when we promote, or when we fund women. And that is definitely one of the keys to a diverse and thriving workforce. So here we chose to give you a selection of role models that we look up to and that we work with. But the important thing is that some people are in tech, but some are also in recruitment, some in sales, some in design, and some in product. They are a diverse group of very inspiring people that we get to work with. And they have all made their own individual journey into the world of IT. And this is key to female empowerment in IT.
So, how are we getting there? Language obviously plays a large part in how we share the perception of the field and what people do who work in that, as well as what skills are needed to carry out our daily work. So, do you need to label work as hard or as soft or as for women? Or maybe we are just reframing the entire thing. It is to be aware of what biases that we carry is in our work on a daily basis. Something that was previously only considered as a women low-paid job is now, for example, one of the best-paid jobs in the industry. Mostly carried out by men, unfortunately. So dare to question yourself about your own biases. As employers, we need to focus on hiring more diverse, to include in the workplace. To empower women in IT, we need to see role models in different industry and areas of IT. We have a journey ahead of us. But being confident about your own area and domain and daring to take the space As mentors, role models ourselves, we can also lead by example and build other women to follow the journey in their IT. So, to wrap this up, we have already come a long way in female empowerment in the IT, and we should be really, really proud of it. But there's also obviously still some way to go. We can stand on our shoulders of the ones that came before us, but also we can be the shoulders for the ones who are coming after us. By being aware of the history, our biases, and daring to take the space, we will be able to champion diversity in the workplace. So, when I will ask you again the question I asked you in the beginning, are you working in IT? Who would now raise their hands? And I hope it's going to be more than before. Thank you very, very much. I think we have some questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Does either of you have a question maybe for the two of them while they're still standing here? No questions. Seems like it was a good presentation. I do have a few questions actually. Do you have any advice you would give to younger women or younger female people who are in the sector in like IT? What they could look out for if they are faced with like gender stereotypes or something like that?
I think in terms of for young women, I just say go for it. I think most of the time, I think ourselves are the ones that also usually block, like if we can do something or not. And I think being very intrinsically motivated to do something, but maybe not even if you're not sure if you're gonna dare to do it or not. Just surround yourself with people who will cheer for you, and then just try to go for the things that you are like inspired by doing.
And maybe just daring to do it, because even the two of us, we have studied something and also find something new we are really interested in, and IT is a really broad field, so maybe just try it out and then see how you like it, and then you can still adapt it to whatever you like the most within IT.
Do you maybe have like a personal experience or something when you felt especially empowered as a woman in this field?
I don't think the moment itself was particularly spectacular, but it was one when I was in a meeting with a lot of decision makers where I realized that more than 50% of the group were actually women. And to like realizing that I'm so used to only working with men in leadership positions, and then all of a sudden you see that you have a whole bunch of decision makers that kind of look like me. To me, that was super empowering, and also super like this feeling of people understand me and I can breathe a little bit. So that was a clear moment for me.
I think we have a question over there.
I can come over.
First, I want to say thank you for the presentation. I really felt seen, and I wanted to ask, you talked about the role models. Where do you seek, or where do you go? You talk about events, or where do you find those role models in your company or LinkedIn? Yeah.
I think there are a lot of ways you can find your role models. For me, as a starter, I think sometimes actually famous people, because you can just read them up. You can see some talks on the internet, on YouTube, and so on. And then also having some more approachable role models. We are really lucky enough to have a lot of role models in different IT domains within our company, Netlight. But we are also going, for example, on the Code Pub to also meet other people and to have those talks and so on. So I think there are a lot of ways, and it should be a mixture between approachable role models and maybe really far away, high role models, as you can say.
Yes, and also adding to that, like role models also doesn't have to be people who are a lot more senior than you. They can also be your peers who are daring to do something that you get really inspired by, or people that come after us in our career who does something that we find really brave or really interesting. So I think that's also how you can also find your role models also around you.
I think this is a very nice quote to end on. Thank you so much, Anna and Louisa. It was very interesting. And yeah, we have the next presentation coming up in about 10 minutes. So if you're interested, you can stay. Thank you.
Thank you.